Alright, so this video is because someone suggested kind of giving a recap from pretty much what's happened in the last 10 or 11 videos. So one video a week, so 2.5 months or so. That way they kind of feel like they're not too far from the road here. That way they feel like they're not too far disconnected from all the work that's been done, so people can kind of see what it's been like to do a little quarter-acre homestead here on the North Shore of Oahu, and all the projects we've got into in that time frame. So let's do a little recap. Alright, got my little notebook here, and this will kind of walk us through what the last 2.5 months have looked like. Almost 3 months. If I put out a video this week, it would be 3 months. So the first video was we went and saw our bees, and we went to go see our bees with our mentor Katie at her apiary. And while we were there, we did something that was kind of the biggest thing we've done since we've been beekeeping for over 3 years now, which was we got to split our hive into a second hive. So now we have 2 beehives, and just a little bit ago we just actually transferred that hive into, which was a nuke box, which is like a smaller box, into a deep box. So now we have a full-on hive that we're going to try and bring over to our property hopefully in the next couple weeks, which is pretty exciting. So we did that in that video, and then I had that massive mulch pile that was dumped that was kind of blocking a bit of the access to getting into our lawn. So I took a bunch of wheelbarrow loads and came and put that into all my garden boxes and a little bit in the chicken coop, and just around the garden, because that'll help keep a lot of the moisture in and help keep the weeds hopefully from growing and overtaking some of the garden boxes. And when you do that, it allows you to kind of save on spending a lot of water to water your plants, but also protects the soil. So got to get a lot of that done, which was pretty awesome. It was a lot of wheelbarrow loads to finally move it all. Chickens are being silly in the background of this video. The second video was propagating a bunch of plants that we got from a sweet lady in our community. She wanted to share a bunch of stuff that she was getting rid of, and so we took a bunch of that, clippings, mostly ornamental things, not really, not a lot of food-based things, but we did get some sweet potatoes from her and planted those. And we put those just in water. We really haven't done much with them since, just trying to let them get some roots, and then hopefully we'll put it into some spots where they'll thrive. And then after that we did, one of the clippings that she gave me was an orchid, really beautiful purple orchid, and so I attached that right behind me, actually. It's on this side maybe, onto the tangerine tree, and it's starting to grow. It's about 4 inches tall now, which is pretty awesome. That'll be really beautiful to have kind of hanging from that tree, a little tangerine tree right here. And then I took a bunch of the taro that we had growing in the corner and cut up a bunch of pieces and got some of the hulis, is what we call them, little offshoots, and just propagated them in water, labeled them, so that if I had any friends or people that wanted some, we had some in hand to give out to people. And then we had our first banana harvest, which was our first one that we've done. If you've been watching and following along, you've seen a ton of banana harvests, but this tree right over here was the first one that we planted into a new spot, and got it from a banana festival. And you can get a bunch of little pups and stuff and plant them, and it took 6 months, so it was a little bit long. It didn't have the best water in the area, but it was our first harvest, and it was kind of a little milestone of growing more food on this property, which is really cool. So that was a lot of fun. Video 3, I built a huge trellis from a bunch of recycled wood that I got from a deck from a friend who was demolishing it all and was going to take it to the dump, and I just loaded it up my truck as much as I possibly could and brought it all over. We still have a little bit over there in the corner of the property, and I built this trellis behind us that you can see a little bit of in the garden. We've got a bunch of beans and cucumbers, and I think some tomatoes starting to grow up as well. So that's pretty exciting that they're starting to grow, and it'll be really nice to see a full canopy, hopefully provide some shade under there, and help those plants kind of grow a little bit better. But the trellis has been beautiful. I really like having it there. Once more grows up, it's gonna, I think, add a whole new kind of element and look to the garden. Number 4 was prepping the flower garden, which used to be land where we had a bunch of chickens on it. So then we cut their coop down, and so we had this really rich, fertile soil that they've been kind of breaking down, adding their manure to. Food scraps have been going in that area. And we mowed it down, we covered it with wood chips, cardboard first, and then wetted that down, and then did a whole bunch of wood chips on top of that. And then after that we put a bunch of dirt on it, which I had to sift all of it, get it nice and fine, get any of the plastics out of it that unfortunately we buy from a local distributor. And then once we got mounds of the dirt, then I put a whole nother layer of mulch on top of that, just to hopefully keep any of the weeds out, keep the moisture in. And so then we'll let that kind of sit for a little bit and kind of break down a little bit, adjust to that space before we planted anything in it. Video 5 was when we were getting a lot of rain, and there was a huge forecast of more rain coming in just a few days. And we started to harvest potatoes and sweet potatoes because we knew that those were going to go bad if they sat in water for a week or two. We have a lot of clay soil here, so you just have to get anything out that's going to get a lot of water. And we had a great harvest. We had like almost 80 sweet potatoes and I think about 40 Yukon Gold potatoes that we just ate for dinner a couple nights ago, which were great. And it was raining during that harvest because we were catching it just at the last moment because we're busy like everyone else here. But that was awesome to go get all those out and have that great harvest. Video 6 was all the tangerines that we harvested from the tree behind me. We had a ton of them that were going to go bad if we didn't make anything out of them. So we juiced them all because that's kind of the best way to get a ton of just a ton of liquid out of them. We can use it for smoothies, just use it for like morning shots, just juice when we want to have it. And that was great, and we drank all of it within probably like 3 days, even though it was probably over 100 tangerines. And then after that we added the irrigation to our flower garden, and we had to get that in and set up because it's not a spot that has easy access to water. And so I ran some extra irrigation lines down there and strung it all across and put in little drippers. And the flower garden, hopefully we'll get some shots of it, has been doing great. We've got some little cosmos that are coming up, some zinnias, calendula. Those are all starting to sprout and looking really beautiful over there right now. And hopefully they'll just keep getting bushier and bushier. But we got all that irrigation in preparation for that, and then we planted them all. So on that same video we got all them in, planted them all in, and hopefully kind of spaced them out best we could around drippers, and it seems like they're holding up pretty well. So that's a pretty little spot. Hopefully when we bring bees onto our property, they'll come and access our flowers and benefit from that. It's always good to add flowers into your garden because that brings pollinators, and that's what helps get all of your fruit and vegetables thriving and growing, so that you have a lot of food growing. Video 7, we planted some tomatoes that we had sprouted up from some old heirloom tomatoes that did well here, but unfortunately none of them made it. I think it's just been too hot and they didn't have enough shade, and I think we also had some snails or slugs that were coming out that we hadn't got in time. So we planted almost 10 tomato plants. I don't think any of them made it, and that was under the trellis area. Then went out and did our first harvest of bananas in the orchard, which is one of the first, I think it was the first yield of produce that we got, other than maybe papayas and kabocha squash from the orchard. But we planted all those in June and July of last year, and about a year later, 10 or 11 months later, we got our first harvest of bananas from it. We got 2 in one day. It was, I think, about 60 pounds of bananas, and we ate them rapidly. But it was really cool because it was a huge milestone in that project to finally get to enjoy some of the bananas from that. So that was great, and super delicious. Me and my son Otto probably eat 5 to 8 bananas a day, which I don't know, probably isn't good for us, but we love them. Alright, video 8, we did something that was suggested in the comments, which was I'd made a short video about the soil that we got, and I mentioned earlier how I had to sift it because we get plastic in our soil. I think they can label it as organic, but I think there's still a discrepancy of what percentage of plastic can be in your soil and still be certified as organic by the FDA, even though it seems like if it has plastic it shouldn't be, but I just don't think they can get around that today in the world that we live in. And so people suggested that I should build a compost bin for our property so I can make my own soil and I can be in complete control of what goes in it. And so that's what we did. I took a bunch of that recycled wood that I got from that friend, and I built a 3-foot by 3-foot box that's 4 feet tall. And I just loaded that up a couple days ago. That'll come up in next week's video of loading that all up. So I got that whole compost bin built. It was pretty heavy, pretty tough, and a lot of wood to cut. But I think it's going to serve a great purpose on our little property. And I think it's essential for most people who homestead. You have to be able to make your own soil, and it has to be healthy and help to feed your plants when you can't go and get soil. Let this helicopter pass. We live in Hawaii, and people do helicopter tours during the golden hour, where they can go around and see how beautiful the ocean is at this time. So it's hard to hold it against them, but it is not fun to film with. Alright, video 9 was our first kalo harvest. Maybe the thing I'm the most proud of that we've grown so far. I was really happy with the bananas, the cassava, and the kalo. They're all staple products and food sources for the Hawaiian people, along with sweet potatoes, sugar cane, and many more. But kalo was their main source of food, and it has a huge spiritual context in their culture, and is very important to keep growing, to learn about, because it connects to their culture immensely and help them to survive the harshest situations, because it can be made into poi, and poi has a shelf life and can be taken out on sea voyages, and so it has so many benefits to growing it. And we had a giant harvest. We had 2 that we harvested that were probably close to 8 pounds. I really wish, and I kind of regret, that I didn't weigh them right when I pulled them out, because that would have been really cool to know the exact amount, because I like numbers, and I would have really appreciated to know that. But and we pulled 2 more out that were a little bit smaller, maybe 3 or 4 pounds. But there was 2 of them that were, one was probably 8 to 10 pounds, the other one was easily 8 pounds. And when I cooked them all and boiled them down, I weighed all the bags of food afterwards, and it was 20 pounds of food. So I'm assuming that it was probably even more than 20 when it was just raw straight out, and I didn't lose any in the cooking process. So that was super cool, awesome to harvest. We've eaten it, I don't know, 5 to 10 times for dinner. Just fried it up and had it with some salt, and it's been great. I also built the bee box on that day, so we had to build that new beehive box in order to transfer our new split of hive from a nuke, which is a smaller hive, into a bigger deep box. And so I built that and got that all prepped, and was able to transfer the bees into that just a couple days ago. So that'll be in next week's video, you'll see. Okay, number 10 was adding irrigation to the raised beds, which are right behind me in this garden. This was something that we really wanted to do 3 years ago, but I finally have all the excess of irrigation lines, and I got a bunch of the additional drippers, and I'm going to put a timer on it eventually too, and I got it strung throughout the whole garden bed. And I probably will need to make some changes so that it's not like in our way when we're walking through the garden, because there's kind of like curves that you have to walk around that we can add sharp angles to, and it'll be a lot cleaner and a lot easier to work around. But that will allow us to survive the summer. It just gets too hot in the summer here, and if your plants aren't getting a consistent watering that they can rely on, or at least a system that they are able to constantly be fed water, especially young ones, if you're putting in new plants, it's just too rough. And the rest of the world is really used to doing huge spring planting, and then they go through the summer and then they harvest before any snow comes, and in the fall. here we don't really stick to a schedule that much, so we just kind of plant whenever. We try to do our best to plant when it's the best season or time for individual crops. Like we just started some pumpkin seeds because they say in June or July is a good time for planting pumpkins in Hawaii. But if we plant something that we just had a seed that kind of sprouted up, or we want to put something in, or we're propagating something, we just put it in. And they don't do really well in the summer because it's so hot and they don't have as much rain. So getting some of the irrigation lines in was pretty critical in order to kind of survive that summer. Number 11. So this is the last video I just put out, and that was just kind of a showing our life here on the North Shore as we are doing farming. We have chickens, we have bees, we have garden behind us. We're constantly baking homemade food, and so I kind of showed just a wide variety of those things. So the day kind of started off just kind of going and feeding the chickens like we do every day, collecting eggs, going into the garden, pulling weeds, watering the garden, and then after that we wanted to show Emily and what she does, which is she makes sourdough bread every week for our family. And so we put out an official video of kind of how she makes her bread and that process with the recipe. But in this video that week, I also just kind of showed her bread making process, and it's beautiful and it tastes delicious, and it's a part of our life every week, so I wanted to share that. And then we chopped some wood over here, just behind where you're at right now. So we could have a little fire that night with the kids, and once I was all hot and sweaty, we went and took a dip in the ocean as a little family. My parents came as well, and my brother and his kids. And when we went over across the street, some people had found an octopus that they had caught. They weren't going to eat it. They just, wanted to catch it, and I don't know how you would say that. Just be involved in nature. And they caught it, and they showed the kids, and they showed me, and got to just kind of see it and hold it. And then they went and put it back. But it was cool to go and have my son get to, pet an octopus. Not a very common thing that happens all the time. Did you hear that little clicking? That's a gecko. A little gecko, I don't know, signal or mating sound or something, but got a lot of wild geckos here. But yeah, that was it. We came home that night and just wrapped up. So you're kind of all caught up now. So if you're wanting to watch these videos and you're interested in seeing homesteading here in Hawaii, hopefully you can hear me. I'm not sure how much the wind is hitting the microphone. But if you're wanting to watch these videos of us just kind of homesteading and doing what we do here on the North Shore, trying to just involve more slow living, being more involved in nature and our food system, and being involved in the things that keep us running, that I think a lot of us take for granted, then hopefully you can continue watching the next videos. You can use this video as a catch-up video, or you can go back and watch the rest of them. They're all linked in a playlist that's, I think, just labeled lifestyle, of just capturing our life without really talking much, just us out here doing work and enjoying the beautiful land that we have the privilege to work on. This is my parents' house behind us. They bought it in the 70s, and we were all raised here, and we're just trying our best to learn the agriculture of the people who lived here before us and have rights to this land, because we feel like if we're going to live here and call this our home, then we need to treat it like the home that they would treat it as. So hopefully that makes sense. But I appreciate any of you who are watching this video and have watched this point. We appreciate all your support. Anyone who likes or comments, we'd love to engage with you. And if you want to continue to watch more of it, then feel free to subscribe and stick along. We're going to keep this going as long as we can, because our dream is to just do what we're doing: farm, homestead, home baking, beekeeping, and film it and share it with people so that they can gain a better education about it, and hopefully it will inspire them to go and take hold of their own life and situation, and hopefully get out of the rat race that is very easy to get consumed in. And yeah, that's what we want to share. That's what our goal is, so follow along if you like. I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you guys next week with a new video. Thanks.